Now, if I need something, I will go to somebody that I know has something, right? So if I am looking for food, if I am looking for water, I will go to somebody who has food and water. But here God is saying, I have commanded a widow in Zarephath to provide for you. Now the thing is, she does not know she's supposed to provide for Elijah. So Elijah comes there and he sees her gathering sticks and he calls her and says, can you bring me some water in a vessel that I may drink? And then the next verse says, and as she was going to bring it, he called to her and said, bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. Now this is the thing about prophets, right? If you think when you're interacting with your man and woman of God, when you're interacting with prophets, that when they've given you an instruction, it is only that is your instruction, you will always suffer with loss of information, because prophets have a way of speaking, prophets have a way of doing things. And one of the things they do is they will give you part of an information and then they will make a demand. So over here, it was her willingness to go and get water for Elijah that told him, okay, now I need to ask her for bread as well. When this is not the crux of my message, but when your man and woman of God come to you and give you an instruction, or they make a request of you, or they ask you to do something, wait for the full instruction. Don't run with half of it. And if you've not got the full instruction, you make sure you go back and ask. Like I really, really enjoy some of my daughters. And even sons, they will know how to pull out instruction out of sentences that may sound complete, but are not really entirely whole. Do you understand what I mean? It's like there is a part of an instruction that is given, but they are able to look at what is spoken and then also draw from what is unspoken. And that is a grace that you should know is part of you. It is a grace that you should also cultivate. It is a grace that you need to make room so that it can enlarge in your life. Because very often we can just hear part of the instruction and then not be able to go beyond that, because you're stuck with that one instruction. You're stuck with that one thing that you've been told, that one thing that you have heard, and you say, no, this is it. It cannot be anything else apart from this, because, maybe this is what it is. She had not even got the water to him first. She was on her way to get water, and he said, get food as well. And his demand was for a piece of bread, a morsel of bread in your hand. He was not even looking to have stomach full food. He just wanted little. He wanted her to part with something so that he could honestly just bless her and release the blessing that the Lord had given for her. But in her limited vision of who she was, what her circumstance was, what she had in her hand, what she had in her house, what was in her capacity, the first thing she did was resist. And tell me this is not the story of all of us. That as soon as the Lord demands something from us, we are willing to do it if it is convenient. See, when she said, as the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar, and see gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Again, everything she said was not false. It was all true. It was all what was her current situation. It was her very natural, logical bent of mind. This is what I have. This is what I'm going to do. There are two of us. This is what we'll eat. This is where we're going to go. This is how our life is going to look like from now on, because once this gets over, it also indicates that she didn't have the means to make more. She didn't have the means to buy more. She didn't have the means. So not only was she poor, she was a widow. Now she was also hungry. She was desperate. And given her circumstance, she was still a very generous person. Given her circumstance, she also knew that, I can bless this man of God with whatever little I have, even if it is a glass of water. But the thing is, the Lord wanted more for her. This is not written anywhere, but I would like to believe that the Lord chose this widow because he wanted to bless her. It was not just because Elijah had to be fed. It was because this woman had to come to a place of understanding that she was still under the hand of God, even though she didn't have the hand of a husband over her life. She didn't have a provider over her life. She didn't have anybody else to take care of her. The Lord wanted to remind her that he was her husband. He was her provider. He was everything that she needed, which is why he was able to send an Elijah. You know, I was thinking about this throughout the week. I kept talking to the Lord. I said, Lord, how did you tell Elijah but not tell the woman? The woman was too consumed by her natural surroundings. The woman was too consumed by everything around her, her desperation, her sadness, her loneliness. It was too much for her to be able to listen to God. It's a different story that in that time and that season of the world, you needed a prophet to bring the voice of God to you. But, you know, you hear God in some way or the other. You know God. Even if she wouldn't have heard God, she would have known that there is a God that answers prayers. There is a God that, you know, is there in the land. There's a living God amongst us. But she didn't. She was very devoid of this information. She didn't have this information. So we go through life, especially as women in the Christian community, we have such a limited expectation from ourselves. Forget about other people. We have limited expectations from ourselves. We've told ourselves, like, you think about it, when you think about church work, the first thing you want to do is join the worship team. If you can't sing, then you will join the intercessory team. Or if you can't do either of that, you will join the cleaning and organizing and all of that. If you can't do any of that, you will do this very different kind of intercession, which we will not discuss. But you know, where you go around discussing things, having conversations that may or may not build your church, that is a different story. But you'll find women like categorized only in these few limited profiles, not everywhere. I think our churches have been liberated from this mindset, and we thank God for that. We thank God that we have men and women of God over us in our lives that have drawn us out of the shell or drawn us out of this mold that the world has tried to fit us in. But half the time, more often than not, it is not even the world that tries to put us there. It's not even the church that tries to put us there. We tend to put ourselves in that kind of a place because we think that is the most we can do. That is the best that we can do. You know, as soon as you get married, oh, my husband is everything now. As soon as you have, I have to prioritize my family. I have to prioritize my this, I have to prioritize my that. And then you have children and then finish. What you thought you could prioritize, children come and they deprioritize everything. And then for the next 18 years of your life or 20 years or 25 years till your child leaves your home, all you manage to be is a good mother. Your service in church is suffering, your service to your spouse is suffering, your service to the body of Christ is suffering because you are not able to break away from these mindsets that we have been fed time and again. Now, I want to tell you that should you take care of your family? Yes, please. Feed your family. Take care of them. Make sure you do your responsibility, your job towards them. But at the same time, you don't stop being a child of God, right? Just because you got married. You don't stop being a child of God because now you have children, right? Everything takes on a different form. Everything takes on a different shape. Like before you got a job, you were able to spend the whole day praying. You could spend the whole day worshiping God. You could spend the whole day flat on your face, just enjoying His presence. But the day you got a job, you had to go to work. You could not go to church, go to the work and, I need to take a couple of hours off because I feel the Spirit of God in this place. So I need to pull myself away. Are you dishonoring God by not praying? In fact, you are dishonoring God more by not working, because God says, you work as though you work for me. You do whatever you do as though you're doing it for me. So different phases of your life demand for a different version of your worship, a different version of your love. It is not less, it just takes on a different shape.